I said no in therapy this week. Well, it was more of a head nod, but it was still a no. Not to my therapist, to the work itself, to going somewhere I wasn't ready to go. In the moment it happened, something old and loud switched on. A familiar spin cycle of what were you thinking? What if she's disappointed? What if this means something bad is coming? Later that same week, I found myself holding a work deadline I had already privately known was unrealistic. My business partners kept gently asking, "Are you sure you're going to hit that?" And I kept holding the line because I heard their question as doubt, as a challenge to my competence. What I couldn't see in the moment was that they were actually trying to give me an out. Two very different settings. Two very different relationships, the same pattern running underneath both of them. That pattern has a name, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Did you know that trauma impacts how we navigate our careers, but most career advice ignores this reality? Imagine feeling confident and safe at work while honoring your healing journey. Welcome to your Trauma Wise Career Guide, the podcast that reimagines career development for trauma survivors. I'm your host, Cyndi Bennett, a trauma survivor turned trauma-informed career coach and founder of the Resilient Career Academy. If you're navigating your career while honoring your healing journey, you are in the right place. Today's episode is about the word no. Not as a communication skill, not as a script to memorize, but as a healing signal, as information about where you are and what your nervous system has learned. If saying no makes your chest tighten, if your brain immediately starts calculating the damage before you even said anything, this episode is for you. For many trauma survivors, saying no isn't a communication skill. It's a threat response. If you've ever noticed your chest tighten the moment you consider declining something, if your brain immediately starts calculating the damage before you've even said anything, you're not being dramatic. You're not weak. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it learned to do. For a long time, no may genuinely not have been safe. In childhood environments, in abusive relationships, in high-control workplaces, in communities where compliance was survival, saying no carried real consequences. The nervous system logged that information and built a strategy around it. That strategy is called fawning. Most people are familiar with fight, flight, and freeze as trauma responses. Fawning is the fourth, and in professional settings, it may be the most common one nobody talks about. Fawning is the pattern of appeasing, accommodating, and over-agreeing in order to keep the peace and stay safe. It's not manipulation. It's not people-pleasing as a personality quirk. It's a nervous system strategy that developed because conflict, disappointment, or disapproval once felt genuinely dangerous. At work, it can look like taking on projects that aren't yours because you didn't know how to redirect them. Agreeing to timelines you already know aren't realistic. Staying silent in meetings when you have something important to say. Volunteering for things out of anxiety rather than genuine interest. Saying yes to a request while your body is screaming no. It can also look like holding a deadline you privately know is unreasonable and hearing a gentle question about it as an accusation, because the old messaging is louder than the current reality. That's where I was. My business partners weren't questioning my ability. They were looking at the scope and trying to give me permission to adjust. And I couldn't receive it because the fawn response had already taken over. Hold the line, don't disappoint, deliver. Here's what makes fawning particularly layered for trauma survivors. It doesn't stay in one room. It follows us into the spaces that are supposed to be safe, including therapy itself. I had spent years in therapy assuming my therapist always knew what was best, that I didn't have a say in what we worked on or when. It never occurred to me that I was allowed to slow down, redirect, or say not today. The fawn response had extended even into my own healing space, agreeing, complying, going along, because somewhere in my nervous system, the role of good patient felt safer than the role of a person with a voice. When my therapist M began actively naming that I had a choice, that I could say no, that not right now was a complete and valid answer, it was genuinely disorienting. The idea that a helper relationship could include my refusal and remain intact, that took time to believe. Even when I finally offered that small head nod of a no, the spin cycle came anyway. The old messaging doesn't wait to see if the consequences actually arrive. It launches preemptively. I want to name that for anyone who has experienced this in therapy, in coaching, in any relationship where you're supposed to be the one being supported. The fawn response doesn't recognize safety automatically. It has to learn it, and that learning takes time. Here's the reframe I want to offer you, as both someone who has lived this and as a trauma-informed career coach. The discomfort you feel when you consider saying no is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. It's information about where your healing is. The urge to protect your time, your energy, your boundaries, even when that urge is immediately followed by fear, means something. It means your authentic self is speaking. It means some part of you knows what you need, even if another part is convinced that honoring it will cost you everything. There are different moments in this process, and all of them count. Recognizing the moment before you automatically say yes, noticing the tightening, the calculation, the scramble, even if you still say yes, that recognition is not nothing. That is awareness coming online. Pausing before you respond, even briefly, even imperfectly, even if you still say yes. That pause is your nervous system beginning to create a little space between stimulus and response. And saying no in any form, to any degree, in any context. A head nod, a not right now, a revised deliverable offered in place of an unrealistic one. All of it counts. None of these stages is more valid than another. They are a continuum, not a checklist. What fawning costs us professionally often goes unnamed because on the surface, it can look like dedication, flexibility, and being a team player. But underneath, the math is quietly running. Every yes you don't mean is a withdrawal from a limited account. Over time, chronic overextension reshapes how others see you, not as someone with depth and discernment, but as someone defined by their availability. Your actual strengths become harder to see because you're spread too thin across things that were never yours to carry. Resentment builds quietly, too, toward colleagues, toward roles, sometimes toward the career itself. The one you built on a foundation of yeses that were really just fear wearing a professional outfit. And there's a visibility paradox worth naming. Fawning often makes us less visible as leaders, not more. True leadership influence comes from discernment, from knowing what to take on and what to redirect, from being someone whose yes actually means something because they were also capable of a no. The work of learning to say no as a trauma survivor in professional settings, in a body that remembers danger, is not a skill-building exercise. It's a healing process, and it is not linear. It may mean examining the stories you carry about what happens when you disappoint someone. It may mean beginning to notice what a genuine yes feels like in your body versus what a fear-based yes feels like. It may mean finding community with others who understand why something this small can feel this enormous. You are not meant to figure this out alone. What I know for certain from the inside of this work and walking alongside others doing it, The fact that saying no is hard for you is not a flaw. It is a record of what you survived. And the fact that you want to learn, that some part of you is reaching towards your own voice, that matters more than you know. The healing and the professional life are not separate tracks. They never have been. Every time you get a little closer to your own no, both are changed. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to have a deeper conversation. You can book a free 30-minute discovery call, and let's talk about where you are in your journey and what support might look like for you. The link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time. You're not walking this path alone. Every step you take toward a trauma-wise career is an act of courage, and I'm here cheering you on. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with another survivor who needs to hear this message. Together, we're rewriting the rules of career success. Keep rising, keep healing, keep building.